Armored Core is a game where you engage in the not-so-distant dystopian future gig economy. The surface world sucks and everyone lives underground, but you still got bills to pay. So it's time to get in your giant robot and start taking some jobs, illegal or otherwise, from the corporations vying for power. But hey, it's not all bad, at least you're your own boss, so there's that. And it is pretty funny taking a job from one corporation to fuck up another, only to turn around and take a job from the corporation you just fucked up. Like getting paid to rob a liquor store, only to turn around and be hired by the same liquor store to defend it now that someone put a hole in the roof. But there's no hard feelings, that's just how shit works down here. You are a Raven. Well, assuming you can pass the test, you are, which the game just throws you right into. It's like, hey, enter your name, boom, you're in there. And, you know, I don't want to get all parasocial here. I know Fromsoft isn't actually my friend. They don't even know who I am. But I gotta say, that's classic Fromsoft. These fucking guys, huh? So yeah, right from the get-go, you're fighting two chicken mechs at once. Gotta kill them to even begin the game. No tutorial, no empty place to test the controls out, no.
Alright, Raven, you've been out of the game for a while, so let's just go over the basics to brush up on your piloting skills. Press the X button to engage thrusters.
And on this, I'm a little torn. On one hand, this sure is a filter, I suppose. I mean, you're not going to be getting anywhere if you can't get through this. But on the other hand, some time to get oriented with the game's controls would have been much appreciated. Yes, old games had controls in the manual, this is true. But, you know, knowing what a button does and feeling how it does it are very different things. This is probably going to make or break this game for most people, I'd imagine. I mean, I got this game back on the PS Store for my PS3 back in PS 2012 or whatever. You know, I'd fallen in love with Demon Souls and Dark Souls, and I wanted to check out what else Fromsoft had made, and I discovered Armored Core 1 on there for the PS1, so I bought it, I gave it a try, and I hated the controls and put it down for like 10 years. You have to remember, dual analog controls were not common in this era. I'm sure there were some games somewhere or whatever, but typically things like this had tank controls, and that part's okay with me. Not scared by that. I mean, even strafing left and right with the shoulder buttons, that's okay. Takes a little getting used to, but it's alright. Now, the most fucked up thing with this game is how you look up and down. You know, since there's no stick to use, you gotta use L2 and R2. Couple that with the slow turning speed most leg parts have, and this can make the game feel clunky as hell. Part of me hates it, and I could easily empathize with people that put it down because of this. I mean, hell, I was one of them. But on the flip side, there's a weird appeal to it. In a way, it immerses me more. I feel like I'm steering around this big, hulking metal machine. Almost like I'm driving like a piece of heavy construction equipment or something. There's this kinetic sensation to pulling the triggers to raise and lower these massive robot arms. And the sound design really helps sell the weight of it all. If you've only played Armored Core 6, which is something I recently got around to doing, this is going to feel way, way different. And I'm not going to sit here and try to argue that these old controls are better than the new scheme, but I do have to say I feel a sense of bulk and heaviness was kind of lost by switching to something a little more fluid like that. You know, for whatever that's worth to you to be more immersed and have good controls. But anyways, upon passing the test, you're now a Raven. A mercenary giant robot pilot that works for Raven's Nest, a mysterious computer network that offers jobs and other services like buying parts, pilot rankings, and a super cool email function. Who started it? I don't know. Who runs it? I don't know. Well, actually, I do. Somebody going by the codename R, and I think we know what that stands for. But more on that later. For now, you got some gigs, you know, real honorable stuff like clearing out squatters or striking workers, you know, removing defenses from key places. There's even one where you gotta track down a member of a protest group that's broken off and escaped through a parking garage to this banger of a song. Questionable ethics aside, the mission structure is one of my favorite aspects of the game. While some of them do get a bit longer near the end, they're all pretty bite-sized. Some of them taking mere minutes, in fact. I think it's an area where the limitations of the PS1 enhance the experience. Likely why the game takes place underground as well. You know, you couldn't use up too many polys making a surface world, although you do go up there sometimes. The shorter mission structure kind of makes the game like eating chips. It's like real easy to go for another one, and another one, why not? There's some really good variety in here too. Lots of fun or interesting objectives, some really good subversion too, where you may go in thinking you're doing one thing only to run into a curveball of some kind and have to do something totally different, or survive against an unexpected threat. Some of the highlights for me include this one where this facility has this corrosive gas leak and they've like deemed it a total loss, so they pay you to go in there and plant bombs on these like cores, and you're rushing around trying to find them, all the while your health bars become a timer basically as the corrosive gas eats away at your mech. And then on top of all that, there's like a million spider robots that you don't have enough ammo or time to deal with, so it's like this frantic mad dash to get to the 5 columns and get the fuck out of there. There's this other one that's like more of a navigational challenge than anything. It's this winding maze of a bunker. It's like pitch black, you can't see very far in front of you. And this shit looks like Silent Hill. I don't know if it was an homage or just a coincidence or what, but it's like stained concrete and like rusted grating. And the atmosphere is really creepy and unsettling because there's this like intercom message that keeps playing. It sounds like a young girl. I can't quite place the language. It's just weird and eerie, and nothing else in the game is like this. One of my favorites is this one where you're in this beautiful desert with these JPEG mountains, and you're supposed to be defending this train as it's loading up. And at first you're just dealing with these planes, but out of nowhere this red AC shows up, and he's like out for blood, and you have this duel in this train yard, and it's super cool. And after the mission you get an email about how he was a competent pilot, just like you, but after failing a mission he disappeared, only to reappear years later now acting insane and attacking everyone on sight. There's another one where you have to take out a gang of tanks called... There's fun, simpler stuff too, like a mission where you gotta remove these haywire robots from a facility full of highly explosive machinery, so you end up inching through and very carefully taking them out one at a time. You know, careful not to blow anything up because you'll be paying for the shit you break and the damage to your robots, so, you know. Easy to get a net loss on this one. There's this one where you defend a plane as it's trying to take off, and there's this highly important VIP on board, but once the mission is complete, you realize you're just defending a decoy and that they flew the guy out of some other airport miles away. Now, just because humanity has moved underground, it doesn't mean that every mission is going to be like a bunker or a corridor of metal hallways or some shit like that. There's some really good variety in locale here. If you're a sucker for old, low-poly environments like I am, there's some really good shit on display here. I mean, look at this fucking Stingray. As you progress through the ranks, you'll slowly become more involved in the world at large, taking more substantial jobs and sometimes even eliminating other Ravens in your line of work. Of all the corporations fighting for supremacy down here, the largest two are Chrome and Murakumo. And based on your decisions, you'll end up destabilizing one of the two, leading the other to take power. You see, these two companies are kind of like Mr. Burns' diseases.
Here's what happens when they all try to get through the door at once. Move it, shout ahead.
And by removing one, you upset the balance and lead things towards a collapse entirely. Your missions begin to become more and more dangerous and sometimes outright ambushes. There's certainly somebody that wants you gone, even sending a monster. I wrote that in there. Eventually, this culminates in a mission within the Raven's Nest itself. Destroy floating mines, and if you've played this game before, you might have just had like a mini panic attack. Innocuous enough, you know, somebody has planted mines inside the Raven's Nest, and they want you to clear them out. Well, following the trend, there's a lot more than mines here. Some of the meanest enemy types are found in this level, alongside one of the most infuriating platforming sections I've ever fucking played, involving floating cubes with laser turrets. Laser turrets that like to knock you around while you're trying to fly and to maneuver from moving platform to moving platform. And of course, it is a long-ass way down if you mess up. And remember, you're doing all this with the tank controls, looking up and down with the triggers. Calling it awkward would be a bit of an understatement. And if that wasn't bad enough, once you've cleared all that, you make your way into this large vertical chamber where you're attacked by the highest ranking Raven there is, 9-Ball.
Your fate is sealed.
Enemy ranking AC identified. as 9-Ball.
And this fucker is mean as hell. He's fast, he hits hard, and the area you fight him in just makes it more complicated. Again, it's a vertical chamber, he's flying all around you like a bee, and you're looking up and down with L2 and R2. Just keeping him in your sights is hard enough, let alone surviving his onslaught of like explosives and laser beams and shit. But if you can survive him, you then proceed through a tunnel and make your way into a large vertical chamber where you're attacked by the highest ranking Raven there is, 9-Ball. Wait, what? 2 9-Balls is? A pair, you may say? Well, yes, that's right. Not only are there 2 9-Balls, 9-Ball is actually not a guy at all. No, it's actually the AI behind the Raven's Nest, responsible for dishing out jobs to keep things in order and to make sure no one group gains too much power. Whoops, looks like I shouldn't have destabilized one of the largest corporations in power. This is the one mission with a game over cutscene. You're simply eliminated and erased, all record of you deleted, and presumably things carry on with 9-Ball at the helm, no one the wiser. However, if you can survive the gauntlet, you make your way to the AI core and destroy it, and put an end to the order it was programmed to keep.
Are you satisfied? Do you want to destroy order? Destroy the world, is that what you want? We were needed. That's why we were born. People cannot live without order, even if it is a lie. Go on living, Raven. You or I? Which one of us was ultimately right? You have the right, the duty to find that out.
The ending is ambiguous as to whether your actions ultimately were good or bad. As the AI says, people cannot live without order, even if it is a lie.
But enough about the story. We got robot customization. That's right, robot customization. Do you like guns? Cause we gotta track them down with the homing missile, or give them some heavy-duty LASIK eye surgery. We got fast robots. We got creative robots. Put on the spider legs and gross out your sister. Put on the chicken legs and jump around like an asshole. That's right, an asshole. You're an asshole. A big dumb asshole. Fuck you.
As you complete more and more jobs, you'll accrue money, and that money you can use to spend on parts. And one thing I really like is that parts sell back for the exact same amount that you bought them for, so it really incentivizes like trying shit out and experimentation. You know, if you end up not liking something, you could just get your money back and buy something else instead. And the incremental growth of your funds ties well into build planning. As you take your AC out on missions, you'll learn of its weaknesses or areas you'd like to improve on. Like, if you're struggling with energy, maybe it's time to save up for a bigger generator, or if you're having ammo issues, maybe it's time to put a backup weapon on one of your shoulders. Maybe you're not fast enough, some different legs perhaps, or maybe you'd be more comfortable with a little bigger health pool. Now, that's not to say you can't lose money. If your repair costs or your ammo costs exceed your earnings, or if you outright fail a mission, you'll still have to pay those, and you won't have any reward money coming in to offset it. In fact, if you go too deep into debt, you'll get a game over where you're taken for an experimental surgical procedure as a form of compensation.
Is this the subject for our next experiment?
Yes. His papers say he was a Raven.
Oh, so he took the usual route here.
Seems to have piled up quite a debt.
Must have dashed his dreams. But he will be reborn in this experiment.
That is, if he lives.
You have a point there. Let's get started.
This will start the game over from square one, but you'll keep a bonus power such as an enhanced radar, or being able to throw energy waves with your melee weapon, or being able to use shoulder-mounted weapons while running with biped legs. It's a pretty cool way to handle failure. It's like, yeah, you fucked up, but here, it's a little easier this time. Keep in mind, though, this game has a manual save function, so if you really don't want to lose money, you could just reload after fucking up a mission. I mean, you know, assuming you're saving often, which you should. You should do that. Now, on the topic of building your AC, you won't just be able to go willy-nilly and put together whatever you want. There are weight and energy limitations you're going to have to deal with. Slower legs will generally carry more than nimble ones, and that goes for arms too. Figuring out the weight to energy ratio while fitting in the weaponry you want can be a really fun process. There are heavier generators for more power and other parts to experiment with, like computers for different types of aimings and lock-ons, boosters for different outputs and efficiencies, and even optional parts like a missile lock jammer or a stabilizer for heavy cannons and the like. Different heads and radar pieces will give various types of scanning and mapping functions. There's even a fun detail where the quality of your computer affects the voiceover for your systems.
System engaged. Combat system engaged.
Main system engaging combat mode.
Cannot unlock gate. Cannot unlock gate.
Gate check. Cannot unlock gate.
And those are just the robot parts. Now, as pretty as you make your robot look, you still won't get much done without weaponry, and I'm happy to say there's a good variety on display here. You know, all the staple stuff you'd want. A bunch of machine guns, shotguns, sniper rifles, rocket launchers, missile launchers, a lot of energy weapons, energy blades. There's even a little backpack that throws a cluster of bombs, kind of like you're throwing breadcrumbs out for pigeons. You'll be able to equip a max of 4 weapons, 1 in your hand, 2 on your shoulders, and an energy blade in your other hand. And a good variety will not only help you deal with enemies in different environments, but ammo limitations as well. Yeah, if you run out of ammo during a mission, that is it. There's no spare ammo sitting around, enemies aren't going to be dropping clips or anything like that. Yeah, if you run out, the mission's basically over. You're not going to be getting anything done, especially if the objective is to kill something or destroy something, or even break like a fence to get into somewhere. But that's just another metric to measure weapons by. Sometimes a weaker weapon will be balanced out by having a shitload of ammo to spare. For example, this machine gun that you could afford fairly early on that holds 1,000 rounds might still have some relevance even later on compared to something like, I don't know, the Kurosawa, Armored Core's Big Peen. I mean, it'll absolutely destroy anything you throw at it, but it only has 50 rounds, so good luck stretching that out over a long mission. There's a fun balance here between kinetic weapons and energy weapons as well. Kinetic weapons will fire ammo that costs money, and some weapons, like these dual Gatling gun arms, absolutely fuck everything up, including your bank account. On the flip side, there are energy weapons which fire laser beams, and those are free. Even in this dystopian corporate nightmare world, they still haven't found a way to charge you for light, so that's good. Their downside, however, is that they drain energy from the same pool that your thrusters use, and early on in the game, your generator is going to suck booty cheeks. So while you'd like to use them to save on ammo costs, you might end up just making things harder on yourself. If you're using all your mobility juice for shooting, you might end up just taking more damage overall anyways, and it'll be more expensive than the ammo costs would have been in the first place. And while we're talking about mobility juice, it's displayed here on the left. This bar represents the energy put out by your generator. They all have different features, but one they all share is this red zone here. This acts like a final buffer. Once you get into this zone, it'll drain slower, but it'll also refill slower too. And if you exceed this, you're a fucked sitting duck. It's gonna take some time to refill. Meaning no flying, no boosting, no melee, or firing your weapons if they're energy-based. You know, I talked a little shit on the controls earlier, but honestly, with some familiarity and a little time, you'll start zipping around and taking to the skies. It kind of reminds me of the arc you go through with a fighting game. When you first play it, you just feel stuck in the mud, like you can't get anywhere or do anything, but you put some time into it and you begin to open up the game's mobility, and I don't know, it's a pretty rewarding feeling when you could launch into a new playthrough and just start outmaneuvering enemies with even the shitty starter AC. I guess it really just depends on your threshold for older games, but personally I would recommend trying to push through the clunk of the early stages if any of this sounds interesting to you. I love the progression of taking your AC out on missions and trying it out and finding out what areas you'd like to improve and then saving for parts and trying them out and seeing how you could refine your build into something that suits your playstyle or the mission you're trying. Plus, there's just a lot of charm and intrigue on offer here with the story and the world as well. I say it a lot, but this is a world I just like exploring, and with that, I'll leave you with some scenic views. Thanks for watching.